Greetings. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the three worst mistakes, three worst mindsets when it comes to email marketing, specifically in e-commerce. So the three that I've chosen here are the three that I come across the most when it comes to, I've worked with over like 200 e-commerce stores by this at this time, 2025, January 28th. So I worked with Fortune 500 companies, generated my clients like over $30 million in email revenue. And this is just the three that I've picked out that would be probably the worst mindsets, like the ones that I come across the most and the ones that I feel are limiting people the most. Let's dive straight into it. They're probably not what you think. So it's not going to be, it's not going to be, it will be technical, but at first it will start from like a macro level. So it's not going to be, like you use emojis in your subject lines. Like it's not going to be something as specific as that. It's more like macro level issues. So like number one is overcomplicating things. So what that means is there are people that come to me. They have 2,000 people on their email list. Okay, let's push it even more extreme. They have 200 people on their email list, and they tell me, "Hey Ben, like, can you make my like every single person that purchases something, they should receive a personalized email like, hey, the name is fine, and then because of the product, and they would have like 50 different products at their store, and I want to upsell a specific one for each of them. So that means we need to create 50 different post-purchase flows, 50 different abandoned cart flows, and God knows how many different campaigns." And I'm like, listen, like that's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be really expensive for you because I will need to do more work. And it's not going to have the outcome that you're hoping for, because as good as Klaviyo might be, even if you use a tool like MailChimp, which is like a lot more beginner friendly, maybe, but I think Klaviyo is already quite beginner friendly. There's going to be issues when you try to overcomplicate things. And there's so many people that want to have like a 20 email long welcome series before they even have an abandoned cart flow. And I'm like, listen, like you got to have the basics down first. So the Pareto principle, the 80-20 principle is super important in here, because otherwise, you're going to be missing out on 80% of the results. So yeah, I mean, in general, you got to have the most important flows in there. So for example, this is a client that we have, and so in here, this is a spot where we could think about doing, for example, expected date of next order flow, something more advanced like that, where Klaviyo would use predictive analytics. But at first, we got to have the abandoned cart flow in. We got to have the welcomes flow in and I would always be recommending a pop-up personally, unless you have a very specific situation. For like 95% plus stores, I would always recommend a pop-up. You gotta have a customer thank you flow. I mean, like 1 or 2 emails is fine in there, in general. And then my personal, like in the previous videos you've seen, I like a browse abandonment flow. So these are unless you have these 4, don't think about the rest. For this client specifically, this win-back flow seems to be performing great because of the definitions we gave it. It's not even a traditional win-back flow. Win-back flows like don't even work that well in e-commerce, but that's just kind of like an example I wanted to show you in terms of, overcomplicating things. Like stop thinking that you need all of this complicated stuff. Like for example, in here, when I pulled up email marketing statistics, and then Gemini is telling me personalization, 80% of customers are likely to purchase from a brand that provides personalized experience. That is a statistic that is not really telling the whole story. And it can be really, really misleading. And also, it's kind of like the sexy thing to say, I'm an email marketing expert, therefore, like, hey, bro, like if you're not personalizing, then, you're, I don't know, making huge mistakes, etc. There's so many Facebook groups out there. There's so many people on Instagram, so many people on YouTube telling you like, oh, you need to personalize all of your emails. No, you don't. It's a little bit like right now with Facebook advertising. Like those who just kind of go broad with targeting and just let Facebook like do the targeting because it's smarter than you, get way better results than those people who do all these complicated lookalike audiences, all of this stuff. Because as Alex Hormozy said, simple scales, fancy fails. I think I hammered this point home. Let me just see how I'm doing for time. Cool, 5 minutes. Second thing is not sending enough emails. So this is definitely the second biggest kind of shortcoming or limiting belief that I see from e-commerce store owners. There's a lot of them that have really good intentions. So what that means is, let's say you built up a pet brand because you love your pet, or like, for example, I worked with this company before who provide help with like people with eczema or some kind of like skin infection and or skin problems, and because they experienced it themselves. There's a whole like romantic story about it, and they have really good intention and they don't want to annoy people. But what these people don't realize is all of your competitors are sending 10 times more emails than you right now. Like there's always a scale, and you always, it's a little bit like, it's probably not going to be the best example, but I'm just going to use it anyway. We're terrified of sharks because we see these like sharks. Somebody passed away because they got attacked by a shark surfing, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to go surfing, but or like a plane crash. We're terrified of these events, even though statistically it's actually a lot more likely that you die from like a traffic accident, or I don't know, like from some kind of illness. It's way more likely. But we're kind of like, because it's like this extreme example. So similarly with email marketing, probably I brought the two worst possible examples, so apologies for that. But yeah, similarly with email marketing, people get really turned off or get this idea that if you send more than one email a week, then you're automatically spam. On a practical level, there are two metrics that you just got to pay attention to in email marketing. There's so many things you could pay attention to, and obviously, if you have a 10% bounce rate, you should probably do something about it, okay? But unless like most of your metrics, and Klaviyo is quite friendly in this way, where it provides you some pretty decent benchmarks for example, I wouldn't pay attention to those ones as much, like click rates, revenue per recipient, although like it's not that. Anyway, that's something that we will delve into in another video. The point is, the two most important metrics for you is open rate and revenue. Like you want to make money, and open rate is significantly more important than the click rate, just from an email provider practical perspective. So if you have amazing click rates, but your open rates are below 30%, then stop, I don't know, like, oh, like that means my emails must be great, because that means you're going to have a high click-through rate. If you have low opens and high click, because the click rate is the total amount of people who clicked from the total amount of people that received the email, not opened, received. And I mean, it helps if you have a good click rate, but nowhere, like it's nowhere near as helpful as an open rate. So if I could choose, I would definitely try and have a higher open rate in those situations as well. So many people, by the way, think that, the subject line is the main thing that will determine how good is your open rate. No, it isn't. It's the segment that you send to. So for example, recently I worked with an interior design company, and they're selling in the US, and it's really weird because somehow the open rates were pretty low when we were first sending the emails. So I just had to go narrower and narrower. Let me just show you an example of a good way of like segmenting that I like to use. So for example, this is how I segment. Like I create a bunch of different segments, like engaged 90, engaged 30, engaged 180, engaged 365. And these are the definitions that I personally like to use. So we've got person can receive email marketing, very important. Person has bounced email 0 times over all time. It's just something I like to add in because Klaviyo doesn't automatically suppress them when they bounced once. And for most new accounts, I want to be on the careful side. Similarly with marked email as spam. And then as you can see, like these are like and, so they exclude more and more people. And then if either of these things is true, they will be included in the segment, right? So either open in the last 90 days, checkout started or clicked, or created in the last 60 days, because I wanted to get a little bit creative because I wanted to make the segment smaller without making it, let's say, lower probability for high revenue, like reducing the expected revenue I would create. So the like new people I would always want to include, like if somebody joined yesterday and they haven't opened an email yet, or they haven't engaged with anything, but they just kind of joined and they received maybe one email so far, I would still want to include them because they just subscribed. They're still pretty fresh. Definitely want to include them. But the point is, coming back to the second mistake, not sending enough emails. There's a thing, it's called personal bias, where where we think that what is true about us will be true about other people. But realistically, okay, this might be harsh. So let's say if you're an e-commerce store owner and you make 100K or more per month, that means you're probably not going to check your email as much, like in terms of your personal, right? Like you might check your work email for, I don't know if your suppliers are in, etc. You probably don't check your personal email. But this video is for, this might be harsh, but I would just say it anyway. Like this is a video more for winners, or like for people that don't really check their personal emails as much. Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm subscribed to so many things. I don't have time to like unsubscribe from them. So I'm just like leaving it open. But at the same time, 90% of people still check their Instagram the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning. If you're an e-commerce store owner that makes 100K or more per month, you probably don't check your Instagram in the first hour. And if you do, you probably shouldn't. But this is not a business or personal development channel. But most people still check their social media. They still check their emails. They love to get distracted. They love to escape or whatever, which is fine. It's not about judging them. It's just, as Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching, my favorite book ever, the graceful master accepts things as they are. So this is just how it is. Most people check their emails, which means it's a great tool for us to make money for you. Let's just use it. Just because you don't like to receive more than one email a week from your favorite brands, like for example, I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm subscribed football, soccer, I'm subscribed to their emails. It's fine if they receive me more than one, like if there's a sale or there's a new kit launch or I don't know, like something new, I'll read it. Or I mean, I won't, but it's okay if they send it. Okay, so that's just a quick thing there. And then the last one is thinking that better design equals more revenue. This is possibly the stupidest thing there has ever been in e-commerce, and just a false belief from e-commerce store owners who are perfectionists and over like grandiose their brand. My friend said it perfectly. They're playing business. They're not doing business. So I recently, there's so many examples of just how many times we've proven that this is just not the case. With that being said, yes, if you sell, I don't know, $1,000 or plus high ticket jewelry, which is a very visual item, and if you are Chanel or Dior, I don't know, it makes sense to have like nice looking emails, right? But if you're just especially, this is also kind of coming back to a topic from the last video about your niche. Like if your product is not visual at all, I love text only emails, like text only. Like this is what I mean by text only. It's only text. There's no logo or anything. You can include your logo, it's fine. But I recently had an experience with a client where we couldn't send an email for, I don't know, 3 weeks because we kept sending like updated versions of emails and they were just not happy with it. But it was an email that would have made them money. But they were like, oh, like, I don't know, like the color here could be like better, or like, I don't know, like, it's just like small minute details. I understand that the brand guideline is important, but I think the brand guideline is important if you're Dior. Like if you make less than $1 million per month, don't give me your brand guidelines. You know what I mean? Like you're not that important. Okay, you're not. people don't care. Do you understand me? Like, let's send the email. Let's send 2 emails a week. Yes, like, I hate that. We never do typos. Obviously, don't make mistakes. Like, at the same time, by the way, like, if you make a small mistake, the consistently best email I've ever sent is the I'm sorry type email. Like, oh, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. It makes so much money, so much open rates. And it's kind of like, people, like, if they experience the thing on your newsletter, it's kind of like a net positive in a certain way. Obviously, don't make mistakes on purpose or try to avoid mistakes. We're on the same page there. But at the same time, realistically, if you send an email and it kind of like has like one point that you get across, like, let's say, hey guys, this week we're preparing for our Valentine's Day launch. Stay tuned. Oh, and in the meantime, you can check our store here. Click here. And then the button works, like it goes to your website. That's a pretty good email, honestly. Just in general. So yeah, that was the video for the 3 biggest mistakes. Let me know if you guys want specific, like, other topics discussed. Please like and subscribe, all of that good stuff. Still new on YouTube in terms of this channel. If you could share it, would be much appreciated. If you would be open to having a conversation about how I could help your business, especially e-commerce, it could be other business too, but chances are if you watch this video, especially this far, you have an e-commerce stores or you want to learn more about this. So if you think it might make sense to talk more, there's going to be a link in the description below. Check that. And thank you so much. Love you for listening to this video, and just know that you're winning if you're trying to learn more about that stuff. So have a great day.